Don't try to protect me from the job. It's not just a job, Charlie admitted, the honesty of the wilderness, stripping away his defenses. If anything happened to you, Sarah sat down beside him, her shoulder brushing his. Nothing is going to happen. We have Rex. And we have each other. The moment was interrupted by the sound of a twig snapping. Serena Ricket had arrived. The ensuing battle was a test of survival. Charlie was hit by a bullet, the pain searing through his shoulder. He urged Jesse to take the witness and run, while he and Rex stayed behind to distract the killer. Go, Sarah, get them out of here, Charlie yelled. No, she screamed, but she saw the logic in his eyes. She had to protect the witness. In the end, it was a false trail and Rex's sheer bravery that won the day. Rex tackled the hit woman just as she was about to fire on Charlie. A police helicopter, guided by Sarah's relentless coordination, arrived just in time. Epilogue. The long road ahead. Back in Street John's, the wounds began to heal. Charlie's shoulder was in a sling, but his spirit was intact. The Craners were behind bars. The Devereaux legacy was being rebuilt by the eldest son, and Megan Schaefer was finally finding peace. Sarah walked into Charlie's office, carrying 2 cups of the fancy coffee he had promised. You look like you're itching to get back out there, she said, setting a cup on his desk. Rex is. Charlie laughed, nodding toward the dog who was already watching the door. Sarah sat on the edge of his desk. Only a minute? Charlie reached out with his good hand and took hers. This time, he didn't let go, maybe a little longer than that. The fog was lifting over the harbor, revealing a clear, blue horizon. The cases would never stop. The danger would always be there. But as they sat together in the quiet of the precinct, Charlie Hudson and Sarah Truong knew that as long as they had each other and a very good dog, they could face whatever the North Atlantic threw their way. The road ahead was long, and the mysteries were many. But the romance that had sparked in the lab and forged in the fire of the wilderness was just beginning to burn. And in the heart of Street John's, that was the greatest victory of all. The salt-heavy fog of Street John's was more than just weather. It was a living, breathing character in the lives of those who walked its cobblestone streets. For Detective Charlie Hudson, the mist was a familiar shroud that muffled the sounds of the harbor and turned the brightly colored houses into ghost reflections. Beside him, Rex, his German Shepherd partner, stood like a sentinel, his ears twitching as he filtered the myriad of secrets hidden in the Atlantic breeze. Ja'ar, this is the story of a season of shadows, where a detective's instinct meets a scientist's precision, and where the bond between 2 people and a dog becomes the only thing stronger than the fog. Chapter 1. The Silent Witness. The investigation into the disappearance of Megan Schaefer began with a silence so profound it was deafening. Megan, a brilliant young lawyer, had vanished in broad daylight, leaving behind only the cold pavement where she was last seen. The only witness to her abduction was Brian, a 12-year-old boy who lived in a world of silence of his own. Jiasu, Brian's gift. Diagnosed with autism, Brian rarely spoke, but he saw the world with a photographic intensity. Jiayi, the drawing. On the sidewalk, he had etched a hauntingly accurate image of the kidnapper, a portrait of terror drawn from memory. Jia, a mother's resilience. His mother, Emma, had raised him alone after her husband's death, nurturing Brian's art as his primary way to communicate with a world he found overwhelming. Jiayi, Hudson knelt beside the boy, his voice low and steady. Beside him, Dr. Sarah Truong, the lead forensic specialist, stepped out of the fog. Her presence was always a stabilizing force for Hudson, a spark of scientific clarity in the chaos of a crime scene. As they looked at Brian's drawing, their shoulders brushed a brief, electric contact that lingered in the damp air. Jia-san, he's trying to tell us something, Sarah whispered. The kidnapping soon turned into a high-stakes extortion plot. A ransom note demanded $2 million in unmarked, untraceable bills. Sarah devised a plan that was as brilliant as it was dangerous, spraying the money with a synthetic, undetectable scent that only Rex could track. Jar, the trail didn't lead to a stranger, but to the heart of the law firm where Megan worked. Todd, a partner at the firm, had been stealing from escrow accounts and hired Earl Blackburn to kidnap Megan, intending to frame her ex-boyfriend, Jamie, for the crime. They found Megan in a derelict machine shop, shivering but alive. As Hudson led her to safety, he looked back at Sarah. The shared relief in their eyes was a quiet admission of a bond that was growing far beyond the boundaries of their badges. Jasi, Chapter 2. The Fortune in the Mahogany Case. The peace after Megan's rescue was short-lived. The harbor soon echoed with the news of a murder aboard the Best Kind, a luxury yacht belonging to the ruthless Toronto investor Jacob Kaufman. The murder weapon, a spear gun fired with surgical precision. Jaa, the target. Kaufman was found pinned to the deck, his expensive reproduction diving watch missing. Jaa, the secret. Hidden inside the watch's mahogany case was a 64-digit cryptocurrency key worth a fortune. Jai, Sarah's forensic eye noted that the spear was coated in seawater, suggesting the killer had come from the ocean, not the dock. Hudson and Sarah spent long nights on the yacht, the rhythmic rocking of the waves a backdrop to their shared focus. The tension between them was as palpable as the salt in the air. Jaa, when they discovered that Veronica, Kaufman's partner, had orchestrated the murder and framed the widow. Amidst the chaos of the arrest on the pier, Hudson found himself marveling at Sarah's brilliance. Their partnership was becoming a seamless dance of intuition and evidence, a rhythm that felt as natural as breathing. Jia-san, Chapter 3. Mother's Ruin and the Secret Ingredient. The scent of the sea was replaced by the sharp, botanical aroma of juniper at the Devereux distillery. Willem Devereux, the family patriarch, had been found drowned in a vat of his own gin. Hudson and Sarah uncovered a family legacy turned toxic. A dying king. Willem had been suffering from congestive heart failure and intended to change his will to favor his daughter, Melanie. The botanical. The secret ingredient in his new gin was Labrador tea, a local plant that Rex tracked through the distillery. The betrayal. Melanie, believing her father was going to humiliate her rather than empower her, had found him unconscious and finished the job by dragging him to the vat. As Hudson and Sarah closed the case, they stood in the distillery lab, the warm glow of the equipment reflecting in Sarah's eyes. Another family broken. She sighed. Hudson reached out, his hand momentarily resting near hers on the cold metal table. At least they have the truth, he replied, his voice low. Chapter 4. The Wildest Hunt. The final trial took them out of the city and into the rugged wilderness of Cape Royal. Tyler Craner, the volatile son of a drug runner, had executed a man in cold blood. The only witness, Wyatt Donner, had fled into the dense forest. Hudson, Rex, and Sarah pursued them into the bluffs, unaware that a professional hitwoman, Serena Rickett, was also stalking the witness. The woods were a labyrinth of shadows and sudden danger. In a clearing, the silence was shattered by gunfire. Hudson was hit, a bullet grazing his arm, as he moved to protect the witness. Despite the wound, Hudson refused to stop. Through a desperate plan involving false trails and Rex's unfailing courage, they managed to corner Serena before she could complete her contract. You always take the hit for everyone else, Sarah whispered later that night, her hands trembling slightly as she tended to Hudson's wound at the trailhead. Hudson looked at her, the mask of the stoic detective finally slipping in the fading light. Only because I know you're there to catch me, he said. As they sat by the fire, Rex resting his head on Hudson's knee, the fog of street, Jones didn't feel like a shroud anymore. It felt like home. Chapter 1. The Silent Witness. The investigation into the disappearance of Megan Schaefer had started with a silence that was deafening. Megan, a brilliant lawyer, had vanished in broad daylight, leaving behind only an empty briefcase and a trail of questions. The only witness was a 12-year-old boy named Brian, who lived in a world of silence of his own. Jason, Brian's diagnosis. Brian had autism and communicated primarily through a photographic memory, captured in stunning, hand-drawn detail. Jai, the drawing. On the concrete where Megan was taken, Brian had etched an image so detailed it was almost like a photograph, revealing the face of the abductor. Jai, the mother's strength, Emma, Brian's mother, had raised him alone after her